Step 12 is reducing excess float. First, let's talk about the definition of excessive float. If a project lasts a year, excessive float would be 60 days. If a project lasts a month, excessive float would probably be 10 days. So it's all very relative. As a rule, you're looking at 40 to 60 days typically. Now there are some things like, and this is a review of excess float. This doesn't mean something's wrong, but look at right here. Look at exterior siding submittal. It has 40 days of float. So it basically means it has 40 days of slack time. Now, if we open the view, other views, more views, task entry, we can look at the relationships involved there, and we know that the successor is exterior siding submittal review. So that 40 days makes logical sense. We're just taking care of the submittal on the front end, and that's not a bad thing because we're basically getting the submittal done early in the project rather than later. So we have that 40 days as an example. With submittals, you're going to see a lot of float there typically. You may want to clean that up by having a lag. What you could do is saying, because you're doing a lot of submittals all at once, so what you could do is you could just go ahead and put a lag of say 10 days and eat up some of that float. And it also makes sense because it allows you to focus on more important submittals like the structural steel shop drawings. But when we go down to the actual construction activities, we really shouldn't see anything way out of line here. We're looking for, 30, 40 days. Here's a 45-day one. Well, there's a problem there. As you see, structural steel inspection, it doesn't have a successor. Remember, we talked about a closed network. Every activity needs to have a successor. So there's a problem there, and that's one reason we go through and review excess float. So we can say, okay, before we put on the roof, right? We're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and make sure the structural steel inspection is done. Okay, so that is why we do this review. And you see, we change from having a whole bunch of days to now having 24. So that's what we want to do. We want to reduce those excessive floats. Here's another one here. Exterior wall insulation. And it says that seed and straw is a natural successor. And, without having the drawings informing me, I couldn't tell that to be the case. But that doesn't, number one, seem like a logical relationship. So we probably want to have the insulation before we do things like hang drywall. So if we go ahead and put, instead of 94, we put 70 and reduce that 24 down to 6. So we're going to go through it from beginning, from early start to early finish, making sure that we resolve any excess float. Having a lot of float is not a bad thing, but as we've seen here, it can uncover a bigger problem that we may not be aware of. There may be a missing successor. It may be the inappropriate successor, like in this case, or it may just be okay. It may just need to be reviewed. So not a bad thing. Not a bad thing to do. Very important. This is the final review, and I always like to make sure I sort by start date. And that allows me to look from the beginning to the end at all the float numbers and try to reduce any excess float. So, and I'll just reiterate, float is all relative, to how much time the project has. In this project, we have 153 days. So something about 40 days long, 40 days of float would probably be considered excessive. So we want to look everything from 40 or less. If it's a 30-day project, probably anything 10 or more. If it's a year project, probably 60 and greater. So we want to reduce those down. So that pretty much covers, reducing excess float.